for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. He is the author of the book Forgive and Forget How to Nuke Your Credit Card Debt. No other than Mr. Tommy Kilpatrick. Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Tommy, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Oh, sure. Let's see, I had written a book on health and healing. And in about 2004, a company approached me to do an infomercial with them. So I agreed and signed the contract. And I needed to be available for 6 months doing the testing of the marketing. And so I lived off my three credit cards. And then what happened is one of the authors, he wrote a book on weight loss and didn't really tell the truth. And the FTC came down on him and the company, and we all got basically fired. My contract was canceled. So I was stuck with about $85,000 of credit card debt, which put
Mm.
me in a real tailspin for about a month. And then one day I woke up and I remember my dad being a CPA and me being in college to be a certified public accountant. And it dawned on me that the bank had never provided goods and services to me and would not even have an invoice for the alleged debt. And then I got to thinking about how the banks are not allowed to loan their customers money, their deposits. And so what they do is they have you sign a promissory note and they actually write numbers in your checking account. So that's how they create this loan. But I never signed a promissory note. And then my father-in-law of 28 years, he was a attorney and a judge, and we got to talking about this, and he said that fraud undoes all contracts. So I had no contract with the banks. So I made a decision to sue the three banks in federal court in Los Angeles. And you could ask me, did I win? Well, I asked for a jury trial, so I did not have a jury, and I did not have the gavel slammed down saying that I was a winner. The judge threw the case out. So you say, I would lose. I lost the case. Yes, I did. But what happened is three items on my credit report were all of a sudden deleted. And those were the $85,000 worth of credit card debt. And I never received a 1099-C. This is when a bank loans you money and you don't pay it back, it's considered income. So they will report that to the IRS that you got this income, then you got to pay taxes on it, and they get a tax deduction. So they did not send a 1099-C into the IRS because my complaint laid out exactly what they were doing, and they knew that they were actually fraudulent. So that's my quick story. So you don't need to believe anything I have to say today. And I'm a doubting Thomas, so I encourage you to be doubting, to be cynical, and even outright hostile. I don't mind that at all. But I will give you some links and in the show notes, and you can pursue that yourself, and you'll see that what I'm saying is actually 100% correct. And then I encourage you to send this podcast to your CPA and have him or her read one chapter in the book. And it details how a CPA is an expert witness. And at the end of that, they're going to agree with me to tell you that there is no debt. It'll be the first time they ever actually realized it. So I have three basic arguments. One is the bank never provided goods and services, so they never had if you do credit to pay them back. So there is no invoice, no debt. And two, they never loaned you any money that would require you to sign a promissory note. And three, because they did fraud, it undoes all contracts. So that's how you can nuke your credit card debt.
Mr. Tommy Kilpatrick, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. Why is mindset an important part of a journey to becoming a debt free?
Well, first of all, you have to understand that law is language and language is law. And what I mean by that is if you say you have a debt, you have a debt. You agree you owe the money. Now you just kind of try to see if you can pay less of it or be forgiven. But what I'm arguing is that the bank issued alleged credit card debt It's not a debt. So if you say the word allege, like when we watch the TV and we see a bank robber, the news always says alleged. So if we say it's an alleged debt, then that requires the bank or whoever your debtor is to prove that there is actually a debt. So what you can do is ask the bank to produce the invoice. Since they don't have an invoice, they can't demand that there's actually a debt. So a true credit card is when you go into, let's say, a tire store and you need tires and have them put on your car, but you don't have any money. And they say, oh, if you apply for our in-store credit card, you might get approved. And guess what? You get approved. And so you get the tires put on. You get a statement at the end of the month. And if you went into court and said, I don't know what I'm going to claim that this is alleged, well, the tire company has the invoice. It's an outstanding, unpaid invoice. And that is a true credit card. So I am not arguing not to pay that. I am arguing to pay the store credit card. But all you got to do is take a look at the back of your credit card. And if it says Bank of America, Citibank, or let's say Wells Fargo, then your Walmart card, your Amazon card, your TJ Maxx, the Macy's, all those department stores is actually a bank issued credit card. And that's the phony one. So that's where you need to know is exactly what kind of credit card you're talking about. A true credit card where they did goods and services for you, or the phony one with the bank.
Mr. Tommy, what is the biggest myth people believe about debt?
Yeah, the biggest myth here is that you owe the money. And then once you agree that the bank never provided goods and services to give you credit, then the argument is, well, they loaned you money. And that's what banks are all about. People do not know this, but banks only are involved in loans. And if you take a deposit to a bank and put money into the bank, it's actually considered a liability to the bank. It's actually a loan. You are loaning the bank money and they pay you interest on it. It can't be put into your checking account. It can be put into your savings account and you can draw the money out. Well, of course, it's your money. It's always been your money. So you loan the money to the bank and they pay you interest. On the other side, what they do is they have you sign a promissory note first. Then what the bank does is they write numbers into your checking account. They do not take other people's money and loan it to you. That's illegal. They can't do that. But what they do is they write numbers in your checking account, and that's what you can use. So what happens is that when you apply for a loan, you have to apply. Like in a credit card, you apply. But if you're turned down, you don't get the card, you don't get the loan. But if you're approved, then what you do is you fill out loan documents. So this does not work for a car loan or for a mortgage, because when you fill out that loan documents, you have to prove that you can pay them back. You have to have income. You also have to have collateral, something to put up like a car or your house. In case you don't pay, they take it away from you. You also have to have a credit report, and your credit score determines the amount of interest. But the last thing you sign is a promissory note. So that is how the banks trick you into thinking that you have a loan when you really don't. So that's the biggest myth about the whole thing about credit cards is that they loaned you money and they really never did.
Very well said, Mr. Tommy. Very well said. Let's talk about this starting the journey. What are the first steps someone should take when they decided they want to get out of debt?
Yes. So on this, first of all, the question would be how to nuke your bank issued alleged credit card debt. And all you have to do is write a letter to the bank asking them to close your free checking account that's associated with that card. You're going to say, what checking account? And then when banks, what they do is they advertise to get you as a customer. Years ago, they would give you a toaster or a wall clock, but a bank in my town, they offered you to come into the bank and deposit $25, hold it there for 90 days, and they will match it. So that's what I did. I took $25 into the bank. I waited 91 days. I went into the bank. There was $50 in my account. I took the money out and closed the account. Now, did I rip off the bank? No. Did I steal from the bank? No. Was that a gift from the bank to me? Absolutely. If they give me something, it's a gift. This is exact same thing of what they're doing with, let's say, a $500 credit card. You think you're getting a credit card, but actually you're receiving a gift card. This gift card is to entice you to use the card to become a customer of the bank. Even though you filled out an application, that doesn't mean that there was a loan. So they sent this promotional gift to you. And let's say you went to Home Depot or someplace and bought a toilet, a golden throne. So before you're walking out, the person at the door says, "Did you pay for this?" And you have a receipt. That receipt is a document that you have paid that toilet in full. And the store is never going to contact you and say you owe us money. Then what you receive at the end of the month is a statement. Well, you receive a statement from your checking account, and it shows your deposits, it shows your checks, it shows maybe interest, but it is not a bill. When you receive uh, a bank issued credit card statement, they make you think that it's a loan. They make you think that you owe the money. And when you send in that $500, that's the first time that they can count your money. They put your money into your free checking account, and that's a loan to the bank. That's the most important thing to understand about this. You sent money into the bank, you opened up your checking account, and from that point forward, you've been using your own money. You deposit the money from the bill you think you receive, and then you make charges, but it's not charges, it's payments through your debit card. So even though the card says credit on it, when you first received it, it's a gift card because they gave it to you. The minute that you sent the bank money, that turns into a debit card. And so we understand what debit cards are. You deposit money in the bank and you use the funds. And that's what's happening with the bank. So that is how you solve this problem is by writing a letter to the bank, asking them to close your free checking account associated with this bank, with this credit card, alleged credit card. And that's how you can nuke your credit card debt.
Indeed. So interesting. How do you recommend people organize or prioritize their debt?
Yes, that's first thing we're just going to talk about generally debt. These are things you owe. And let's say you have a mortgage. Well, that's going to be a top priority because you have to have a place to live. But on the other side, if you're upside down and you may be in a very particular situation where you've lost your job, what are you going to do? Well, my suggestion is to move to the Philippines, be paid in dollars and spend it in pesos. And I live very close to the border with the Philippines, and I can easily here, but that's where you have an online business or you have some other way of income. So one way is to reduce your debt is by being in a country that has a favorable exchange rate. So on the other thing too, you have an automobile, and I have seen these automobiles selling for $100,000. It is crazy. So it might be better for you to take the vehicle back and give it back to them. And this might end up having so much debt, you might just have to look at bankruptcy, and that is an option. I want to warn you about, and I'll put that in the show notes for you too, about these debt consolidation companies. And yet beware of that. What they do is they don't pay your alleged credit cards. They take your money and then you end up being sued. And so it's a big scam going on. So you got to be very careful about those people who are trying to help you in that way. So if you have debts to the family, you have to pay those. Do everything else is to pay the family back and your obligations to your family and friends, and then don't ever borrow again. So the best thing to do is to increase your income, and the fastest way to uh, obtaining wealth is through real estate, and that's what I'm doing here in the Philippines is linking the buyers and the sellers together because there's no multiple listing book. There's no way that the consumer can find the rent the landlord, and so that's what I'm providing, just a book that people can find information. So there's lots of options for you to make more money and to eliminate your debt.
Eliminate your debt, people, is the number one key to be have a financial freedom. What's the difference between good debt and bad debt, if any, Mr. Tommy?
Yes, that's a very good question. Um, if you years ago you used to be on a farm, and when the parents got old, they would move out of the big farmhouse, and you, with your family of 10, 12 kids, would move into that big house. Or with you being a young man, you would go out further out from the woods and build your own house. So it never really cost you anything. So it was really after World War II that this whole idea that you have to own a house and then you have to have a refrigerator and you have to have air conditioning and one thing after the other. So it fed right into the consumerism, and it just really destroyed the family. So we used to be all together in one unit. So one thing is I really don't recommend going into debt because you just don't know what's happening in the future. So work and do something that people want that you can provide for, and then save the money and work out opportunities for you to own land. And there are many people who are struggling, and you can offer them a little bit of money now and make them payments. So you could do a lease to own. You could do a takeover of the payments. So they're in an upside down situation. You step in, you make the payments, and now you have a house to live in. So there's a lot of different creativity of financing to get into a house. And with a car, you just have to maybe find an older vehicle, but then you run the risk of it breaking down and always expenses. So the advantage of a new car. Then you might go to a lease, but the lease is not favorable unless you have a business. So you could use that as an angle of a deduction to then have a nice vehicle, and every 3 years you just turn it back in. So there's lots of ways of not looking towards debt. Yeah, one thing you do want to do is look towards helping other people. The more people you help, the more you're going to see your bank account increase.
Certainly, totally agree with you, Mr. Tommy. Let's talk about the challenges and setbacks. What are the most common obstacles people face on the path to becoming debt free?
Yes, it's putting their head in the sand. And I have talked to many people. I used to have a charity where we helped over 1,000 people eliminate their credit card debt. But the biggest thing is when I showed them what they were paying, they were shocked. Most people had never thought about what they're doing. They're just making the minimum payments, and that's all they're trying to do is get by on because they went from paycheck to paycheck. And once I laid it all out, they were in total shock about how much they really owed. And then I would show them that there was a true credit card, and that was with the tire company. So I made sure they paid that one. But then the other ones, all I had to do was send a letter, and within about 45 days, there it was off their credit report. So it's amazing how when you go up against the banksters, when you call out their fraud, they really can't go to court and argue because all you do is ask them for the invoice, you ask them for a copy of the promissory note, and what's the most important thing is to ask for someone in the bank to swear out an affidavit of debt. And in these 15 years of doing this, I have asked repeatedly to the bank to have one employee say you have a debt, and it never happens because that would be fraud, and they would be in deep trouble, and so would the employee. So they're never going to have anybody who can stand up there and say that you actually have a debt. So that's my best advice is to take a look at your whole situation and just do an analysis. And I offer a free 15-minute consultation. So you go to the landing page and you get a free book, and you also get a free 15-minute consultation. And if you do that, I'll actually give you my $69 book, Forgive and Forget: How to Nuke Your Credit Card Debt.
Forgive and forget, people. One of the best solution to our financial freedom. Habits and budgeting. Mr. Tommy, what role does budgeting play in becoming debt free?
I couldn't quite understand it. It was how does what become?
Becoming debt free. Budgeting itself.
I'm budgeting. There we go. Okay. Yes. Being an accountant and having a long history of my own budgeting and stuff like that, you look at what's coming in and what's going out. And for most people, more is going out than actually coming in. And I think of a guy named Myron Golden who's on YouTube, and he talks about how it's easier and faster to become wealthy now than it was years ago. So we're all thinking that you have to go get a job, and that is 1750 thinking. It's the Industrial Revolution thinking. I saw a guy who didn't even finish high school. He had must have had some wealthy family, and he, let's say, flew to Israel. It doesn't really matter the country, but he had a phone, and he started interviewing people on the street. He's now making $1 million a month just interviewing people. He's not a journalist. He didn't even finish high school. So these barriers we're putting upon ourselves is we think we have to go get a job, and you don't. Think about how you can help people. What is something that people need? And you focus on their needs, and believe me, it's going to come back to you. For example, I helped a guy recently when I was in Maine, and it was a simple little project that I did for him, and he was going to offer me $20. I'm like, $20? It's not even worth that. No, give me something that's trash to you that would be a treasure to me. So, in about a week later, he called me over. So I went to his house, and he gave me these pair of gloves. And these gloves had no fingertips there, but it had a mitt, so I could have my hands warm. But when I needed to use my fingers, they were available. It was delightful to have warm hands. But he also pointed to a bicycle, and it was his daughter's bicycle. It was brand new. It had been sitting there for 15 years. She's not coming back. And so he gave me a $250 bicycle. I took something off of his, I unburdened his trash and was a treasure to me. So there is plenty of opportunities out there. So if you reach out and just ask people, what can I do to make your life better? And do it for them and ask them for some trash that they would consider, but you could consider it a treasure. And that I say would be the best way you're budgeting because you need to know how much your survival for the food and the drink and the heat and the housing and the clothing. And there's a lot of things you got to add up. And so the other side to do is being more united with other people, using the secondhand clothing, but also using the food pantries and the other things that are available to you to get back on track. So you got to eat and you got to have a place to stay. And the last place I was in Maine, I was in a campsite. I was in a tent and with a rifle because there were bears. And living here in the Philippines, it's just phenomenal. So you can choose your living standard. But first of all, focus on what's coming in and what's going out and just write it down and take a real uh, sober approach to the whole situation that you're in.
Mr. Tommy, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Food 101, in its fifth season, People fifth season, with Chef Alessandro, one of the specialty chef in one of the five-star hotel in downtown Toronto. Please do listen to our latest episode. We are reading our letters senders all over the world. So please do listen, Food 101, wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Tommy, what's one a piece of advice would you give every single client in their debt-free journey?
The best advice I can give is take a look at the card, your alleged credit card, and determine is it a bank issued. If it's a bank issued, this can be resolved in less than 45 days by just sending a letter to the bank asking to close your free checking account that's associated to that card. And you will not have it on your credit report and you will not receive a 1099. So I have the information in my book. So I encourage you to drop by and see the website, the landing page, and get the information, have a chat with me.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Tommy Kilpatrick because if you support him, more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, again, Mr. Tommy, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book itself? Mr. Tommy, where they can buy your book.
Thank you. Oh, on Amazon, and they can get it free if they go to the landing page and have a consultation with me. So it's up to them.
Yes, people, again, let's support Mr. Tommy because if you support him, for sure you will be 100% debt free. Mr. Tommy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.